Hey guys, this is RoniK95 here, and once again, I haven't thought of doing another book review video, which I haven't thought of doing one before, which is something that I haven't thought of doing one before, which probably I should have done one until now. And perhaps it's a book, not just your average kind of ones, but this time it's on autobiography books that I'm going to review, which is in this how it gets to my case as well as for what I understand why. Excuse me. Sorry, I was a little tired. So today's book review, I'm going to be reviewing David Carradine, Endless Highway. That's the book, his autobiography book. I have right here. I don't have the slip cover for this because I think this was missing. I don't know. Maybe got lost. Anyway, so let's take a look at this book as well. Yeah. Which this how it has gotten to a point is that I wanted to do your average kind of book review on here. This is how it begins through his childhood before he got into his career on being an actor as well. When he was basically how has gotten to how through his journey throughout his life and his career in becoming one, starting from his childhood, and then he wanted to become an actor when he was in college at the time as well. Especially, he went to junior college in Oakland when he took the college board exam, when he wanted to sign up as a music major with how he has taking lots of full-loaded class, especially his creative writing, English literature, music theory, music history, and psychology, political science, biology as well. He never goes out for the dean as well. He has been taking so many courses in junior college of how he has been doing it until he attended San Francisco State University in his location throughout his childhood days as well. And he basically sang in a chorus in a school musical called On the Town. He wrote some music for the number in the big variety show. Yeah. Which he had a lot to do for when he had a long ride from Piedmont to Pines. And of course, he has a lot. He's taught by a professor. He was going to semantics when it was taught by Professor Hayakawa himself. In the humanities class, Greek philosophy, found one as an interesting Greek mythology, if it was more of how it's got to for him, as how he basically how things go when he was in musicals as well. I mean, any amateur theater companies never do Romeo and Juliet with any advice of how his journey of how he became an actor, when he has basically has gotten a lot to do for. What he do know is that this how as a matter of fact, though, is that any leaps and bounds of how he basically chose the subject of Hamlet for the good measure, particularly with the paper due as well. Before he dropped out of college, he was on his whole future on his little theater career when he wanted to do this as well accordingly as well before he dropped out of college as well, because he decided to give up on college as well. So him and his friend Stan went to the bagel shop when there was a drunk asleep at the tables, particularly that they encountered as well. And I think particularly how sorry. As a matter of fact, of how in this case as well, Darius wrote particularly. He has written songs in there. Yeah, because I think he has written any songs on there or any of his letters in this particularly. When he was hitchhiking down to LA throughout the time as well. And on top of that, this has gone to his he might agree on that one as well, particularly of how what he has in his book as throughout his career, particularly career as well, when he has basically met Billy Rickard has put him together with Bob Henderson, who is the writer of the script You and Me, which is about a mean biker and an 8-year-old runaway boy. Yeah, particularly. Especially in chapter 54 in this book, as how he has got to, particularly of how this goes. He basically lived in of how, what made him go through all this throughout his years. Yeah, especially how he had gone through that in his lifetime, particularly as well. Yeah, David Carradine, his brother Keith Carradine, was 18 and he comes out to stay and becomes a member of his little band right there, especially, and that's him as Kwai Chang Caine on the set of Kung Fu on there. And any photos have been courtesy of Warner Brothers. Yeah, you can see him on the set of Kung Fu on there. Any opportunity thing as how he has been work very hard for this of sorts as well. Yeah, throughout his career, basically, his most main, particularly what he was on the set with the show Kung Fu, the original series as well. When he got the role in the show Kung Fu, they originally wanted to cast Bruce Lee in that one, but instead Bruce Lee was never attempted to be in it, but because he was replaced with David Carradine. When David Carradine had the production role in as Kwai Chang Caine in the original Kung Fu series, of how he has got to this before he does work on his other movies later on. Yeah. Above all means is how this has gotten to agree. And he also appeared later on in his movies, Death Race 2000, with the help with Roger Corman himself, and his own fiasco of how he wanted to be in a movie as well. At this point of how this goes particularly, So yeah. And all this means is that he has met Linda as well until the divorce as well. And he also appeared in his movies such as Bound for Glory, which is these pictures were courtesy of United Artists, and he was in Americana, and there's a picture of that. There's only like him on the set of Bound for Glory in that one as well. Yeah, because this explains he was on the set of the movie Bound for Glory in like the mid-70s as well. He's got everything he wants to do, particularly of how he wanted to do it as well. Yeah, his charismatic ways of how he how his takes on the road as well as how this goes particularly. And yet he was hanging out with Mick Jagger a little mostly when they watched horror movies on television, such as the ones from Peter Lorre and Vincent Price. But Mick Jagger wasn't talking to Carradine that much. I think he made a pass for Linda as well. So David Carradine played his acoustic guitar when he was jamming with Ron Wood. When they played quite sensitive leads. He was like a finer musician. When Carradine spent some time with Bob Dylan, when he built a house basically. So he got him and his kids to study Kung Fu with Carradine. Bob Dylan was natural when he noddled on his guitar, and he played great as well. When Bob Dylan met David Carradine in this book, how this explains how this goes. At this point, though, every little thing is how it got to do the thing of how his career going in his lifetime throughout the 70s, as how what he has basically got on a lot of the thing to do as well. And at this point as well, when he did the work for the film Bound for Glory, when it's living up his name, when he was starting in his first time in a first major film as well, when his days were filled with fulfilling labor, comedy, drama, and some music, and even the fights jumping on and off on the trains, especially when Hal sent him to Oklahoma to soak up the lingo and study the fiddle. When he visited Woody's hometown, when he was went to a party in a house full of fiddlers as well. Especially of how the perfect lightness of Kwai Chang Caine when he sits in a meditation posture in the middle of the road, particularly. There was a girl who looks. He has met a Chinese girl, a beautiful Chinese girl who looks just like the artist who tore it. She stops before Caine begins. And there was some controversy, especially the drawings as well, with his career and capability as well. It all has got to him in the point now. And for all this point, at all means, okay, at this point it's gotten to a point particularly, he talked to the head of the Warner's feature production when he said he wanted to do Dirty Harry. When he told him about I and the Jury, he said basically it would have never happened. No one has worked for Larry Cohen when he had a worse reputation. When Larry said he could talk faster, but they wanted to hire Armand Asante. Larry was fired off the picture early in the shooting for the film, for the film project as well. Him or David Carradine had a lot to do how this goes as well. So they were advertising all 4 pictures, like You and Me, A Country Mile, Mata Hari, and You and Americana. Especially how this goes throughout his lifetime, and the capable ability of how this goes. He was basically in the movie Lone Wolf McQuade, starring Chuck Norris in the 80s, as soon as the 80s goes by as well. And he also appeared later on in Kung Fu the Movie, which is a TV movie with Bruce Lee's son, Brandon Lee, in the TV movie. Which I think this was made after the original Kung Fu TV series ended in 1975. With the capable ways of how this all has gotten really to a point out as how this basically goes. Yeah. He basically appeared at the Cannes Film Festival in 1981 with Calistia outside the Grand Palais after seeing a screening of Heaven's Gate in 1981. So I think this was at the Cannes Film Festival of how this goes, particularly of how this. And he also did Future Force, like a B grade like movie there as well. Ever since he has been doing his later films, such as Bird on a Wire, as well, which I think he did later on in the 90s after, I think, Bound for Glory in the 70s, and and he also did other movies in the 80s, such as Lone Wolf McQuade with Chuck Norris, and he also was in Future Force also in the late 80s also. But he did a great job in the movie Bird on a Wire with Mel Gibson and Goldie Hawn in that one. And he's also in Future Zone, the sequel to the film Future Force, which I think this was made after Future Force came out in 88 or 89 as well. And on top of this, he regrets of how his worst role in Evil Toons, which is the worst movie, when Fred Olen Ray gave him 2 days on Evil Toons, where they depicted it like a bad horror version of Roger Rabbit. I mean, I feel sorry with how David Carradine was, but he regrets the movie. But he did a better movie in The Gambler 4, where he reprised his role as Kwai Chang Caine in Gambler 4. And he also did better roles, such as Bird on a Wire, which ironically, Bird on a Wire is the movie with Mel Gibson that David Carradine is in that one, during the 90s. Yeah, he reprised his role of Kwai Chang Caine in Gambler 4 with Kenny Rogers and Reba McEntire and Chuck Connors, who is the star of The Rifleman in that one. There's lots of cameos with former Western series stars, including Chuck Connors from The Rifleman, and he was also and Chuck Connors was also in the role as Bern Sanderson in Old Yeller, and he also was in the 80s, such as the horror werewolf TV series that came out in the 80s as well. Anywho, when basically how Carradine was back to the Philippines for the filming production for Killzone as well. He was doing of how these book signings for Spirit of Shaolin as well. And there was a promo parties for Gambler 4 as well. Throwing up these between shots like Distant Justice was a Japanese-American story shot in Boston as well. Yeah, David Carradine plays the crooked mayor in Distant Justice as well. And then he did Crazy Joe in that one as well. And he did most of his roles in his later works, creative work that'll stand the testimony. He's been doing this, multiple movies of how he did this. But later on, in 1991, when Bob Christensen had the constant push for Kung Fu paid off, so they wanted to do it as a spin-off of the original Kung Fu when the whole production of Kung Fu The Legend Continues began. Because when they sort of do it, like, of how the formation of the car crash, the Kung Fu car crashes, without the Dukes of Hazzard way as well. Ed Waters took a stab at the pilot script. No one liked the script, so he hired Michael Sloan, who's responsible for the Equalizers and the new Alfred Hitchcock, among other ones. They had to do the production in Toronto, Ontario, Canada for the Kung Fu pilot, especially for the production, before it became how it picked up as a series as well. And on this point of what they were going to do as well, especially for the production of how it took about the first year with how they worked 6 days during the production of Kung Fu The Legend Continues, when they casted Kim Chan and Chris Potter, which in that one as well, including other actors that were casted for Kung Fu The Legend Continues during the 90s. And then they also hired veteran actor Robert Lansing in that one, when he has for the writing on the show as well. At this point of how they worked very hard as what they got to do, including stuntmen including Al Leong, ready to be credited as a stuntman in Kung Fu The Legend Continues during the production as well, until Kung Fu The Legend Continues ended in 1997 after 4 seasons. And then David Carradine later worked on the most popular movies that he's basically known for in the early 2000s, like Kill Bill Volume 1 and Kill Bill Volume 2 at this point particularly. Although this book was published in 95 on here, because I explained about the biography, especially how David Carradine died back in 2009, because he hung himself in a hotel room in Thailand, which is a sad tragedy, though, because many of those remember David Carradine, who is the star in Kung Fu and Kung Fu The Legend Continues, as well as he's known for movies such as Bound for Glory, Bird on a Wire, and he's mostly famously known for Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, because I don't like Evil Tunes at all, because I don't like the fact of how they wanted to have David Carradine in a horrible horror movie, which is like a horrible bad version of Who Framed Roger Rabbit as well. Well, I like David Carradine, though. I liked his role in Kung Fu The Legend Continues TV series because I think I remember seeing Kung Fu The Legend Continues on TNT. I think that comes on like 3 o'clock p.m. on TNT before Babylon 5 comes on at 4 p.m. after Kung Fu The Legend Continues, like back in the 90s, the late 90s especially. Yeah, for any of those who are a fan of David Carradine, you better read this book as well, because I highly recommend you that book as well. This is an incredible book about David Carradine's life as well. And I admit that as well, because I have been discovering about how he had the role in Kung Fu The Legend Continues on here. To anybody who has remember seeing Kung Fu The Legend Continues, you better read Part 4, Now and Forever, which is on page 601 on there. Yeah, because it's only available in that. So that's going to be it for my book review for today. Thank you for watching, but before we go, here's what I'm saying for this video. Even though I haven't thought of doing a book review on David Carradine, Endless Highway, which is his autobiography book, I haven't done a review on this until now, because I wanted to do something just to get things changed up a bit as well, because I wanted to discover his work, how he's known for in like movies and shows, what David Carradine has worked for, that he's known for as well, especially the career in his lifetime, because I think this book was published in '95. It's also available on the Kindle edition if you could find it everywhere. Hope subscribe for content. My Anime Planet link in the description down below. You can share this video on your Twitter, Facebook, if you have Twitter, Facebook account, all social media. If you want to check out my Anime Planet, the link will be in the description down below, because I have a huge backlog of manga and anime on my Anime Planet account. The link to my Patreon will be in the description down below. If you want to check out my Patreon, you have to be a grown-up to follow on Patreon. And also, be sure to smack the like button if you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below on this video about the book Endless Highway, which is David Carradine's autobiography book. And also, be sure to click on the subscribe button. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Check out my channel, especially if you're new to my channel as well. Smack the notifications bell button. Be sure to get notified also as well for more latest updates. And that's all I got to say for this video, because it took me a while of how it has got to confess that I wanted to review an autobiography book. This was written by David Carradine as well, which I think this is basically published back in '95 by Journey Editions. Yeah, because I think this book was published by Journey Editions, because David Carradine had some time and effort to write in his autobiography book, that's why. Rest in peace to David Carradine, because he died. This is Rurouni K95 saying thank you for watching my video. I'm glad you liked it. Hope you enjoy it. Hope to see you soon for the next video. Hope you have a great day. This is Rurouni K95 signing off, and thank you for watching my video, and I will see you soon for more videos. Take care.